Hello, this is Dominic, and you're on the YouTube channel of the internet's most notorious ginger man, Thorin.
Right, obviously, now we're going to talk about when you transition to doing the casting and all that stuff. But what's funny is, you might not know this, but if I rewind it to where you wish for as a player to complete the career you wish you'd been made, and that would have made more sense. The joke is, though, inadvertently, the jungle switch was easily the best thing you ever did for your real career that has manifested now. Because one, like you say, it developed you in the game, someone who was more of a voice in the game. You were taking some of the charge of like, here's what we're going to get your initiative going. But also, that's the one angle, dude, that I always heard about, which is why you were coming on all these shows that I was doing. So you were coming on Narrative Wake with me and Kelsey, and then there was the one at Elite United with Veteran, and obviously there was Listen Loco and the Crackdown. The whole thing was all these people, Young Buck, Veteran, Kelsey, these people would all tell me like, oh, you should get that guy on. I'd be like, look, I'll tell you straight up, you know what I am. I'd be like, wasn't he like some fucking shit jungler? Like, why do we want him on? He's not even a big name. And then they'd be like,
not false and not wrong.
But it's just the way I am, mate. And then they'd be like, no, you don't understand. Like, if you talk to him though, he's got a really good like eye for the game. He can break stuff down. Like, he actually is really good at communicating. So I was like, oh, okay. And I've always said that was actually the thing when he first came on the shows. Like, even back then, people can go back. The joke is, maybe you didn't know it, but I actually, you almost do have like the right stuff, even just to be a rookie talent. It's why I think he was so good the first year. Like, so maybe you didn't know it, but it's almost like he was supposed to be an on-camera talent.
Yeah, I think I was really introverted as a person. Like, I was terrible in interviews. I rewatched some of my interviews from like the LEC days. They were horrible. I never really liked cameras. I was never much of a content creator. I think when my brand started taking off, it was actually because of you and Dom. I was on a lot of your talk shows, on Dom's co-streams, and that's how I kind of got my name out there. So I think a lot of it is owed to you guys especially. But I don't know. I think actually one skill, which might sound really weird, is I felt like I got really good at describing things because I had Koreans on my team. And when I have Koreans on my team, it's like making them understand concepts. I had to dumb it down a lot and use a little bit of broken English to make them understand in a way. And so when I was describing like my feelings on the game or how I think they should be playing differently, I tried to simplify it as much as possible. For like 2 years straight, I was just simplifying points all the time. And I think that maybe helps rookie players as well, or like newer players, because they can understand and digest points easier if I just use like simpler language. You know, if you're talking to like Tori or Patrick, I can be honest and be like, yeah, I think you should be like flanking on this team fight. I don't know why the fuck you like based at 1 minute and did this, that, and this. Whereas with them, I just have to like slow down and just simplify things. And maybe that's where I grew the skill. On top of like being fluent in English, which I think is also a bit of a hack. You know, a lot of casters are obviously British or American. Yes. It's just like the norm, kind of.
The joke is, you know, when people trash us with Europe, like, yeah, well, the UK players, you go on the fucking broadcast, we're dominating, we do all the worlds, we're talking about.
Actually, this is the first LCS LEC split ever in Europe that there's not a British player playing. Like, ever. Okay. Crazy. There was like Freddy122, there was Kasing, Impaler, me, Alfari, ex-Matty even, but now there's no one. So yeah. But yeah, I think having like a really simplified way of describing the game from like an advanced level to an easy way, plus being an English fluent speaker, just was the two things that made it so people liked it the most.
Sure.
When I was going into, or like considering going into casting, I looked at the broadcast and I said to myself, there's no ex-pro there anymore. Maybe there's a niche there. People loved Deficio, people loved Crepo.
Yes.
They loved pro players. Is that still the case, you know? Is there still that level of exposure? Or like that level of respect in a way where pro player opinions validity just skyrockets versus everyone else's. So that was like the uncertainty. And also my camera skills were awful. I think I came in, I had like the most monotone casting voice ever. I was talking really quick because I want to get my point, you know, I was just really, everything was not there.
Sure.
So I think a lot of the LEC talent, like Shocks especially, would just help me with my broadcast skills and how and where and why and feedback and things. So I think a lot of casters who come up from esports, they are very good on camera and they're very good at talking, but they don't know the game as much. So a lot of their focus is on like learning the game, asking pros, talking to pros. Whereas I was the opposite. I didn't need that. I just needed how to be good on camera, where to stand, what to wear, what to look, you know. So I think they just kind of carried me there and then just put two and two together.
Because this is an angle I actually did want to talk about, because listen, maybe in this scenario, I'm going to be a little bit condescending. Not really on brand for me, is it? But what I'll do is this, which is that we're going to sort of educate what I call the nephews, the kids out there who don't really know what the fuck they're talking about, but they think they know everything. So the problem is, right, in your first year, as you say, obviously that you did just slot into the mold that was Deficio, Crepel. These were very popular people, precisely because they've got the cachet, like you said, they were a pro, and they also did get really fucking good at the end. Like they were some of the best to ever work in EULCS and LEC, right? Because you slotted right in that mold, and you actually had the extra advantage, dude, of you came up in the era, like I said, where you could be on our shows, and if we're sort of like being nice to you, and and you get people to start to like your personality on the core streams, people already are primed to like you, and you did have good name knowledge. But I don't know if you know this, if you ever seen this, but I would always have even my fans would be like, oh, and Caedrel's just easily the best analyst, and he should actually be like analyst of the year and stuff. And I would always be like, whoa, slow down. Like, look, you do understand like game analysis and even great points is like one part of the job, because I've done a lot of obviously CSGO events, and I can tell you one of the reasons why, I'll give you a mad example. People might not think that like quick shots that great, like whatever, he's all right. It's like, mate, on camera, he's fucking phenomenal. What are you talking about? Like, if you know his chops and how he can pivot and what he's doing, and sometimes I'm sure like in his ear, like fail or whatever, like that's the skills that you have to learn, obviously, isn't it? And that takes time. You don't come on doing that. I didn't, by the way. It takes age. You've got to level up. You've got to figure out techniques, like you're saying. Speak a bit slower. You don't trip over yourself. Don't get too high feet to say all the info to begin. There's a million angles. So I remember thinking, like, you still got to work on that. Now, look, on the one hand, it's brilliant that people want you to succeed. They want you to say you're the best. But did you have a similar sense of like, look, I'm not there yet in year one, 1 year?
Oh, yeah. What I will say is like, just on that quick shot point, like showmanship is a really, really hard talent. Like the confidence you need. Like you can give Quickshot a mic and a stadium of 20,000 people, and he will stand in the middle of that stage with a spotlight on him and entertain the whole fucking crowd for an hour. Like he'll do some wacky shit. He'll start running around. He'll start making them sing. He'll play games with them. I can't do that. There's no chance I could do that. I don't have the confidence to do that. He's been in the business for like over 10, 12 years. So he is, I don't know what doorbells ring, whatever. I don't know. He's so well versed in the sphere and knowing what to do and how to handle situations. But I'm, even right now to this day, like on my third year, I would struggle to do that without someone by my side. Like if I was with a Trevor or a Dracos or someone who's just like, or a Shock, someone who's really well versed in handling crowds, then I would feel confident. But if I was to do it by myself, I don't think I would be able to like have the skill set to do it. What was your question before? It was, did I think I was like good enough in the first year?
Yeah.
No, definitely not. Even looking back, I think I rewatched some of my casts from a while back. They were awful. I thought they were really awful. Just bad, never looking at cameras, never looking at people. Eye contact was horrible, always looking at the ground, talking really quickly. Maybe my points were good, and that's what a lot of people see. They don't see the camera aspect of things because they've never really been in the business, some of them. But yeah, definitely like my showmanship was horrible. Still think I'm working on it now, but yeah, especially back then, just monotone, no energy, nothing was really being brought in terms of personality. It was just like me being this pro who canceled something and then people loved it. And then as I learned like showmanship and like developing personality and like body expressions, even now, like just using my hand, things like that are just so important to make you just more trustworthy. It's just like body language can be really trustworthy. You know, the way someone's composing themselves is just important, I think.
Yeah, the funny thing is, when I was thinking for this interview of like what angles I'm going to take, the crazy thing is, dude, this is what actually shows you how fast you did level up though once you got going and how well you've done in your first 2 years, is that, dude, when I was going back, I was even thinking like, if I just misremember this whole career, because in my brain, it's like, there's no way this is going to be your 5th split casting. Like it feels like, for some reason in my brain, I think everyone's done this. I've like retroactively made it so you came up with like Vedius and Medic or something, you know, all those, like, I'm not even joking, in my brain for real, even though I know now, I remember you were playing in Excel. I'm sure in my brain you were also like casting G2 Super Team that year, if that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it was 2 years, does it?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it started in 2021. Did 5 splits so far. Well, this is my 5th split. Did 4 LEC finals, which I'm like super grateful for. I think I was really lucky because what happened was before I went to casting, during 2020 when I finished my split, COVID happened, right?
Oh, yes.
So the NA talent couldn't fly out to EU and the Korean talent couldn't fly out to EU for Worlds in EU. So they had to get guests. So they called me and said, hey, we had you on the desk for playoffs as the analyst. Do you want to come do a world championship as an analyst, you know, not as a caster? This is 2020. And I was like, sure. I was still a pro, you know. I had a little Excel pin. I had to represent the team, la 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 la. I did the World Semifinals analyst desk as a pro player with no showmanship skills because of COVID. And of course, when LEC is then looking at talent for the next year, they're like, well, he's done a World Semis. Like, we can put him on an LEC day easy. So I will make him core. And then this was the time when Frostgurren left, Ender was still there. And then at the end of spring in 2021, Ender left. So the only color casters on the show were me and Vedius for an entire split. So basically we were doing every finals. I did one with Ender, and then Ender left because it was his last split. Then I did one with Vedius. So I kind of like got lucky in the sense where I was thrown opportunities to then merit the reasoning behind giving me it again, you know? So I did a finals with Ender because he's leaving. Oh, we'll give him summer as well because, you know, he's with Vedius. Oh, he did a year of finals. We'll give it to him next year as well, at the LEC. So yeah, I think I got kind of lucky in that sense, which could attribute to like the growth and stuff like this. But yeah, it doesn't really feel like this is my third year. I don't know. It feels short and long at the same time. Feels like I've been here for a while, but also it's like it's only my third year casting. You know, Vedius has been casting for what, like 8 years. Shox has been hosting for League since season 1, season 2. Crazy.
Since, as you said, you identified it was like showmanship you had to work on and getting comfortable on camera. I'll tell you the obvious moment that tells you made it, mate. Because Caedrel, from any year before 2022, there's no universe where this guy would do the world's final and say fuck on the broadcast. True.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
you must have been feeling yourself then, mate. Because if people don't know, I'll give people a little bit of the secret sauce behind the scenes. Obviously, you're not supposed to swear, but everyone knows the tradition in League is if it's a really fucking epic moment, though, you can sort of get away with it. Because if you do it then, and by the way, it's actually, if people don't know, I swear way too much. I'm from the northeast of England. I'm poor, but I'm probably insecure trying to fucking make up for that by being a tough guy. But the thing is, if people don't know, it's actually poor form to swear all the time. There's a reason why comedians don't say fuck every word. You're supposed to sort of use it to make emphasis, aren't you? Like a really big point. Like that's when you drop the fuck. So give me something around this moment. Because one, like I say, to me, it was just surreal. Like, holy fuck, is that the guy from Excel?
Yeah.
And then two, like, did you slide? Was there any sort of like, yeah, watch out, careful, Caedrel? Was there any of that behind the scenes?
I actually did two things in that world. So the first one, before I get on the world finals one, was I was duo casting with Dracos the world semi. We were doing DRX Gen G, and we were in Atlanta, which is, I think, now I don't want to like misrepresent anything, but I think it's quite a religious area of the US.
Oh, it is. There's a lot of like, you know, Southern Baptists and stuff. Yeah, sure.
And I said, God damn it, a couple of times in one game. And so one of the managers came over to me and was like, you need to stop saying God damn it, because to them it means a lot different.
If people don't know,
right?
in the UK, that is actually, because we're like an atheist country at this point, that's like not swearing. That's like the mild version of saying like shit or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
I said God damn it a few times, and then that was a slap on the wrist. They were like, because you know it's NA, we're in home turf, you know, religious people.
Okay.
Stop saying God damn it. This is crossing a line now. And I was like, oh shit, like I didn't mean to offend or say anything at all. Like it's just something natural to me. So then it goes to the world finals. I didn't get fined or anything. Then we get to the world finals, and I don't know, I was just so full of emotion, and I just couldn't help myself from didn't swear. Like I just had to do it. Like my mind reaction, sometimes you swear in your own head, you're like, what the fuck's that guy doing? But you'll say, what are you doing, you know?
Yes. What on earth is he doing? You know, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That was like one of those moments where like you're in a game 5, like there's 20,000 people all around you, you know, it's a world's final, and what you say just won't stop itself from coming out. So my voice was hoarse because we were all kind of like losing our voice towards the end of it. And I just screamed, what the fuck? And I don't know, it came out really like screechy because my voice was a bit done. But I thought it was really worth it. Did I get fined for it? No, I didn't. I think Riot actually was like, you know what? That was actually
all right. You got away with that one. Okay.
You know, we'll let you off with that one. That was a good place to drop it. But I think everyone had that same reaction when he stole it. Like everyone was just like, what the fuck? Like, did that guy just steal a Baron in game 5, almost blind with a smite up for the world championship? That just really just happened. So I felt like, the moment was right. Will Riot trust me ever again for another world final? I hope so, you know. I hope they realize that this was just a one-off, but yeah, we'll see.
One thing I thought I could do, because I have my own experience doing it, like if people don't know, I've done like 8 CSGO majors, I've been in a lot of these big stadium environments, etc. is I can tell you there's two factors that as a fan from the outside, you'll never know as part of what makes the experience cool. One, and all I'll say is watch this. And if you watch fans, how this works in LEC specifically, you'll know exactly what I mean. And this is what all the casters are thinking. First of all, when you're like you and you're an up and coming guy, there's that thing of like, do you get lucky and do they actually sort of mark you as like, this is the rookie we're going to allow to like bed in and start doing like playoff matches, like you said, go to Worlds? Or are you the person where, look, I won't say names, but you'll all start to see it once I say this. There's the people where they do a great job for 4 or 5 weeks in LEC, and that's like, right, guys, I'm off now. That was my last game. I won't be there for playoffs, I'm afraid. I'll be doing EU Masters or whatever, some other league. And then they're like, I'm sorry, no matter what they say publicly, guys, they're all dying inside. Of course, they're all like, oh, I wanted to make the cut. I wanted to do playoffs. I wanted to do finals. I want to do a Worlds or something. Like, obviously, there's that. So already, by the way, if you get to do a Worlds finals, it feels fucking awesome. It's like, wow, I'm here. But then the other thing is this, and I saw this especially with this Worlds final, which, let's be real, was an amazing game, is, dude, if anyone thinks, because there is showmanship, like I can make a shit game seem funny, or or you can hype something to the, dude, none of you are hyping there. I know all the people are on that desk. I could tell you, Dash, you were all mad buzzing off those games. And that's one of the best feelings ever if you do talent work in esports, is when you watch the game in the green room. They're some of the best games ever to watch, by the way, because you're all losing your fucking mind and you can say anything, so you're just talking mad shit. The joke is half the time people are even like way spicier, like fucking DRX is shit, they're never gonna, you know what I mean, I'll T1 forever or whatever. Then you go out on the desk, and then because you know you've got this set period of time, you're all just buzzing to get your points. And I could tell everyone was fucking hyped as fucking that way. Looked like it must be a really fun experience.
It's hard to describe. You like hit emotional highs you've never really hit before. You also have to understand that like my 3 years of casting, 2 of them were under COVID as well, kind of.
Sure. You didn't have the audiences and stuff, yeah.
Exactly, like no crowd.
Right.
The first crowd I had was the one in Malmo, which was really, really insane.
Oh, that's insane. For summer. So it was this last summer.
Finals,
fucking hell.
and then straight. That's the first ever crowd, like proper crowd that I had.
Okay.
So then going to Worlds, it was amazing. Like every single group stage game, there's thousands of people there. And then the World Finals was just like, I don't know. It's almost like electricity in the air. It's really hard to describe, but you can't not be buzzing because everyone around you is buzzing. The energy is like the arena's alive. You know, you feel the tension and the pressure around of the players when you're not even in the same area as them. You know that they're stressed as fuck. The whole internet's just waiting. So you want to make sure you do it justice, but then also, as nervous as you might be to cast the World Final, you kind of get lost in it after the first 5 minutes because you're also just so invested. You know, you get carried away with almost like a viewer. You're just watching it and trying to figure out what's happening and why it's going to happen and when it's going to happen. And you don't really think about like, am I doing this justice? You just get lost in it, let the emotions take over, and then I think people are just happy to feel your emotions over a microphone. You know, you don't see me, all you hear is my voice, but you still know that I'm fucking jumping up and down when things like that happen. And you know, when I really drop an F-bomb or I swear, you know I'm going crazy. So yeah, I think that's probably the best World Finals I'll ever get, because I don't think it'll be in the States for the next 4 or 5 years, because it's a logistical nightmare, let's be honest. Like, viewership sucks. Yep. It's really hard for EU and in Asia to watch the games. And yeah, for a caster, not many people might know this, but if you cast in an English-speaking country, then your voice will be heard in the arena. But if you cast in France or Germany or Korea or China, your voice is not going to be in the arena. It's going to be the domestic language. So to hear your own voice with a home crowd of NA, you know, and have 5-game series with Faker in it, I don't think you can really beat that. So I'm pretty happy. Even if I don't get another Worlds final, I think that will almost, I think that will go down as like my favorite and probably the best.
Another thing, and I actually hadn't even wasn't even cognizant of that fact that it was only in summer you'd even got the crowd. Because the other thing as well that no one can prepare you for is, look, even though we all have like Twitter followers and we all have like people watching on YouTube, right? The reason why you can be a beginner and do YouTube is you don't really have 200,000 people sat in front of you. You sort of know they're there in the back of your mind, but you just get lost. You do the video, don't you? Right? The problem, and same with streaming and Twitter, you sort of know there's a lot of people, but you don't. And even when you do like an LEC, look, you did the one in Malmo, to be fair, that's legit. If you did the ones in the studios, though, it's like 500 people, 600 people. Look, it's cool, but here's the thing. When you walk in a massive stadium like that, Caedrel, thousands of people, everyone knows you, by the way. Everyone's looking at you. Oh, Caedrel, hey, Caedrel. That's when it suddenly hits you. Whoa, play it cool. I'm supposed to be here, you know. So not get nothing, but it's fucking, you feel it, don't you? You feel that feeling, that nervous energy.
Yeah, I still can't get used to it because like I'm I can barely make eye contact with the person I'm talking to, let alone like the entire fucking crowd looking in my direction. I remember they were setting up the stage for the Malmo finals, and me, Medic, and Vedius were casting it, and we walked across the audience to the caster desk, and like the whole crowd was clapping for us, and I was just like, part of me wanted to just put my head down and like not be in that moment, but part of me was like, wow, they're clapping for us, that's amazing. So it was like this weird emotional imbalance of like, I feel extremely awkward right now, but people really like what we do, and that feels great, and I feel rewarded. So yeah, it's hard to get used to. Whereas like people like Trevor and Shocks, when they have that, they have so much confidence that they can just get carried away with it and just give energy back to the people, and just handle the cameras and all the people and the shouting and the screaming and stuff like this. And, you know, they'll wave at them and stuff like this, and they'll clap back and say hello to people. I'm just kind of like the awkward walker, just kind of looking around like, thank you, you know. Yeah.
One of the things that's quite unique about the way it's done in League of Legends compared to like my game CSGO is there's no distinction between the roles. Like intentionally on LEC, you analyze the game, a certain game, you do the casting for another game, and it's just all in one role. It's just one thing that you have to learn to do it all. And then look, true, if they think you're better at one or the other, maybe it's edge you more that way and just fill you in on the other ones. But I've always wondered on that one, because I'll say this straight up, like there's a lot of people I think are very good commentators in League of Legends, because a lot of the game, let's be real, is the play-by-play, and it is the action, it's the hype and all this stuff, that jazz, and you hope around that you put a few good points and people understand. I've always thought, look, maybe you can disagree, that's what I want to find out now. I've always thought you're actually at your best on the analyst desk, man. I think that's where I think you shine. I think you're really good with like that format, because you don't have unlimited time, but League, you do have a good amount of time. Seems like you always get your points off. You always have distinct points to other people. How do you see the breakdown? Do you see yourself as a commentator, as an analyst? What do you think of this dual role they put you in?
Yeah, I think people on the analyst desk are really good. They're like, their skill set has to be a bit different from casting, because if you're casting a game, it's all live, direct. You have to talk about what's happening in the moment, quick points, so you're not taking up too much of the microphone. You don't want it to be more podcasty. You want it to be like quick and snappy, and you have to pass back like baton racing kind of. Whereas on the analyst desk, it's like, here's a question, run away with it. You know, give me as much context, detail, or anything whatsoever, narrative on that point, and then I'll bounce it back to you, and it will like almost like a small game of tennis. You know, you just take the ball for a while, and I'll wait for you to hit it back to me. So yeah, I think at first I was definitely more analyst desk focused, because like that year in 2020, when I was doing all the worlds and the playoffs as a player doing analyst desk, it was just my habit and my most well-trained role. And I was very monotone throughout 2021. My casting never really ascended to like energetic or fun or like emotional. It was just very analyst desk on a cast kind of. You know, I take the mic for a minute while they're doing an early game. Quite boring, I think, for some people. But I think in 2022, I learned a lot from Ender in 2021. I think he is really good at just taking a moment and screaming and just instilling emotion into it and just energy. So I learned a lot from him. And then in 2022, when I was just on my second year, I focused more on casting, because I felt like, look, analyst desk is done. 21, I did World Finals analyst desk. That was great and happy, and I had a really good time on 21 Worlds Finals analyst desk. Let's try to get 22 Worlds Finals caster. I don't want to do analyst desk again. I want to try casting it now. And casting it is just another level. Like you are one with the game and the crowd, rather than just like hindsighting and talking about possibilities and what ifs. And I think that's just way more fun. So I'm like focusing more on like casting now. I think my role in the LEC now is more of a caster. They've like this year of LEC, they've kind of molded a desk that's like 90% of the time on the desk, people like Ender and Gulborg and guests like Nymera and such, and then casters who are like Dag the quick shot, Medic, Vedius, and me in Dracos. 6 casters, 2 each day, so 2 days each. 3 casters, sorry, 2 days each, and that's it. So now like it's all caster focused for me, I think, and just trying to make sure my energy is right, my showmanship is right, and then keep the game up to date. And just, keep sailing, basically.
I want to ask you a question about that like awkward moment me and you had, where you had that mini drama with LS where you said that stuff on stream, and then look, I definitely put all the mustard and the toppings on the hot dog when I did it, as I say on that one. Like I did go pretty harsh, but you have to understand the context if you're a fan, right? Which is, look, it might not seem like it on the shows. Like if you watch Listen Loco, you'd think I actually hate Loco Doco. But the joke is, him and LS are just like my little brothers to me. That's how I see him, you know. So I can wreck him. But it's like the same thing with your little brother. Like, you can't fucking wreck my little brother. You know, like, you better come correct if you do that. So here's the thing. I also, if you notice when I did that, I was also sort of like through the fucking rage, trying to sort of like make good points. Like, you know, you're in your first year, like for example, because you know how it is. When people like dismiss people like Lelis, they just say stuff like, he just makes like random points. It's like, mate, he's mad entertaining. Like, he's got a whole fucking skill set. He's got his whole like world view. Like, obviously at the time too, it was, to be fair, the meta that like, if you want to get your view off, you do. If you criticize LS, there's a certain crowd where it's like the anti-circle jerk. They're going to vibe with it, you know. I just wanted to know, I don't need a mea culpa or some like fucking meeting of the minds and some whatever. But all I want to know is this, is like, what do you think of that incident? Like, if essentially, if you had like, instead of speaking live on stream, anyone could say anything on stream, and anyone could say something half-cocked and say it wrong or whatever, and sometimes it's just gone and you've got to just let it go and you can't bring it back. What I would ask is this, if you could write down what you meant to say there, what was the gist of it? Like, what did you actually have a good point? Was there a salient point in there? Or was there a point about, do you actually think he does sometimes play a bit of a character? Does he try to exaggerate his takes? What do you think? What was the point behind it?
Yeah, there's a lot behind that, because I think as I've grown as a streamer, I start to realize what's like on a more business side, you know, less of a Caedrel side, more of like a Marc side. I've kind of learned what people enjoy and what people often try to come back to. They like differing opinions. They like they don't want to hear the same shit all day, every fucking day. You know, they don't want to hear recycled garbage. They want to hear fresh, new, random, different, exotic opinions, right? And at the time when I first came into streaming, I was very bad at entertaining and like being interesting. I was just a pro player playing at high level League of Legends, and I will say pro player opinions. And it's very stiff. It wasn't very like fun or enjoyment. So when I like saw lots of LS's opinions, I was like, they're all just fucking wrong. And they've got nothing to do with pro play, and you're just trying to make up a load of bollocks so that people enjoy them. And I think that's what you're doing, and I'm gonna try and call you out for it. Okay. And I think the way that I tried to call him out was wrong, and it was immature, and it was stupid. And there's a lot of things I've taken from that. And I think a much better form, especially as like Caedrel now, is make a content piece out of it. Like, just have a debate. Absolutely, yes. Have a debate with him. What the fuck am I doing starting this random... As much as like you might think he's wrong, and maybe he thinks the same about other people, you know, maybe he thinks the same about like pro players or me. He definitely does, by the way. Exactly, right? He thinks they might be stupid, or like what they think is wrong. But is it really worth just saying they're fucking wrong and just starting all this drama and like people taking sides and you taking shit for it? Like, I would get death threats from the LS fans, or like the LS fans would come into my stream saying, you're fucking stupid, you have no enjoyment about the game, fuck you, like LS is right, pro players are all dumb and so are you. Like, let's avoid conflict here and let's make fucking good content. Let's make a podcast. You know, we'll make 3 episodes, the debate about whether we think the viewer opinions are right or wrong, and then it's a more of like a like, what's the word? There's a mediator. You know, yes. It's less of a throwing shit at each other. It's more of a debate. So in hindsight, that's what I would have done. I would have made it more of a debate, and I think he had controversial opinions and different opinions, and I think a lot of people latch onto them because. I think, let's say, if you say to me, Veigar jungle is great, right? And then I say, actually, that's terrible. It's clear it's bad. And you say to me, well, you don't really know how to do it. You're just doing it wrong. It's hard to argue that point. If you say this champion is good, you're just doing it wrong. And you don't know how to do it, you know? Like, yes. It's hard to argue against that. You're like, well, I guess, I mean, I'm not experienced in it, so maybe you're right. But then again, no one else is doing it, so you can't really be wrong because I can't prove your point against you. So oftentimes it's hard to debate against points like that. And I think the way I worded it, saying like this hyperbole of 1% of the time he's right, or what the fuck I said, was obviously just stupid as hell. And it's just the only way that I could try to like summarize what I meant in saying that some of the things he says are correct, and he will latch on to the things that at the time are correct because this will give him like pro player respect, or like he's actually genuinely right. Yeah. But adding and fluffing up all these other things around it to make it seem different is what makes it interesting. But it's wrong. You know, I think it's wrong. You know, I think there's like, if you take away all the fluff and you take the center, that's what matters. You know, we don't have to make all this bullshit around it. I think that's the idea that I was going for. But in essence, it just sounded like I said that everything he says is just incorrect and wrong and stuff like this, rather than saying like, if he's going from A to B, instead of going in a straight line, he's going in a lot of curves. And there's no need for those curves, you know, but that's what makes it different and interesting. And now I think we have a good relationship. Like, he's been talking to me a lot in his off season. He's taking a lot of breaks. And I think Mark has gotten to know Nick now rather than like Cage on the less. And it's funny how times change because sometimes we co-stream together. We made like a small podcast at Worlds, but then G4 went boom or something, so it stopped. And we have a good relationship now. So yeah, at the time I felt horrible. I was going to like other casters. I was like, hey, I've got this drama with LS now. I've never been in drama. I don't like drama. How should I approach this? I think what I did by calling him out on Twitter was probably wrong. And using 250 characters to explain my point of view was probably stupid, and I'll never do that again. But then I tried to make a hyperbole because I wanted to focus on my game. And now that's been taken out of context to the point where I think he's my enemy. So obviously, as a shy pro player with no camera skills and no real social skills, just saying what I think and being a bit of an idiot was stupid. And obviously being new to like the streaming world and like the YouTube and Twitch world where things will get clipped and shipped and then you'll pay the consequences either way.
Yes.
That's when I think actually that affected me in a weird way where what happened to me after that was I would speak my mind less because I was being really cautious. So if I had thought a pro player was shit, or if I thought like I was on a podcast like Euphoria or on a desk and I thought they were bad, I would always put but in front of someone's name. You know, I'd be like, yeah, Reckless is or Perks is playing pretty bad, but I think they can still play well because they've shown it before. And that caveat of but stemmed from not wanting to anger someone's fan base. And I think that caveat came from just pissing off LS's fan base and all of them just fucking hating me and saying that I was like this waste of space, have no idea what I was thinking about. I don't want to ever experience that, you know? So I was like, let's not piss anyone off and let's always give a but and a description and context behind everything I say from now on. So that was 2022. And now in 2023, I've gone back to like the old version.
You're unleashed.
I don't give a fuck anymore. Like if someone wants to start beef or like say some bullshit towards me, I'll say some bullshit back. I'll still be careful. Like I don't want to offend anyone. But if I happen to, I'm not going to say but. Like in the podcast this year on Euphoria, if I think someone's shit, I'm just going to say they're shit. And if they have a problem with it, I'm not trying to personally offend them. I just think what they are doing in this game is bad. And if they disagree, they can debate it with me. It's not like I have this hatred for them as a person.
Yes.
So I've just felt like I've become a lot more real with myself. And last year I was just fluffing myself up a bit too much to avoid problems. So yeah, that whole I don't know what the word is. That whole drama was a bit weird.
Along those lines, though, I actually have a question. I feel like you've hinted towards it there, so let me ask it. Basically, it goes like this. Since actually, another thing people won't know, because they were loving your points, as you say, when you came on LEC, and maybe some people thought you were good on shows and stuff, but I could always tell you were a little bit nervous. Like, you were a little bit like, like I'm just making a good point. That's all I've got. Like, maybe I'm not so great on camera. Maybe people are thinking I'm boring. Is my voice monotone? When you were worried a bit like that, one thing I did get the sense, maybe until this year, you would have been worried about. Luckily, it didn't happen to you, I noticed, is I was always worried that you were going to do the same thing. You would make a good point about a player, and then the player himself, a pro player, like God forbid, by the way, it's ever anyone on like G2 or some top team, if they just go, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Caedrel used to be shit. Like, ooh, mate, like I feel like that would have got you. Like that's people don't know. They might just think, right, I'm just some blithe idiot who just, he doesn't care if you. Yeah. Dude, it's not that easy to just insult like the greatest players of all time. They have all sorts of ammunition they could come back at you with. Like it's a little bit nervous every time you do it.
Yeah, and that's like, I think I've learned the skill of defending myself now and like debating with people and like standing up for yourself. It's quite a hard skill to learn, I think, if you're never really like familiar with the idea of doing it. But you know, let's say I call out Caps. I say, you know, he had a shit game. You know, he played terrible. This is like unacceptable behavior. And he comes back and says, mate, there was not much I could do in that game. You have no fucking idea. Like, you're not a pro anymore. Shut the hell up. You're just a caster for a reason. Then obviously, like, there's like a lot of fires that you have to put out. And you either fight fire with fire and you say, well, your game was shit. You can't change my mind, you fucking idiots. Whether you think of my career or not, you still suck, you know? You saw fire with fire, or you like be a bit more civilized and turn it into like a debate and be like, you are attacking me actually for criticizing a game in which everyone kind of agreed that you played bad. Like, and if you start saying that my career sucked, or if you know, you played good before, you're just dodging the whole fucking point of what I just said. So why are you trying to run me around in circles and like try to turn your fan base onto different people or me or whatever it is? For just stating a fact, you're just emotionally mad that I've just called you out for good reason, and now you're trying to take the piss out of me for no reason. So it's like this weird, I don't know. It's just, I think I had a couple of other dramas with like Nice, for example, where I think I was like one of the first people to have drama with him.
Right.
Where I was like, why the fuck is this guy charging $350 for a load of bullshit when he can't even get out a diamond? You know. So I kind of did the same kind of thing of punching down in a way. But my point still stood. He can't get a diamond. He's trying to teach you the game. Is he really good enough? That was the debate I put. Is it really worth that much money? And then he made a whole YouTube series about it. And then the debate died down. And then like 4 months later, everyone's shitting on him for it. And now it's just a massive fucking meme. I don't know. I think it's a weird... Debating with people is weird, and like having drama is weird. I try to stay away from it. Not many people have called me out.
One thing you're identifying as well that people are going to miss is, I've always said this, it's why if you notice, I don't tend to do my drama. Like, I don't actually have back and forth on Twitter. I very rarely reply to people. I just make my comment, right? What I'll do is I'll have you on my show. We could talk all day long. But the reason why I don't do the back and forth like that is because what I learned was, like, if it's against a pro player, they're always more popular than me. So unless there's some fucking rookie or something, which then just looks at you beating up on a kid, like, unless it's some rookie, like, it always feels like even if you land all the best shots, you're losing because the whole crowd's just like, nah, we're not going to let you boo. Yep. And also the vibe is like a lot of them. This is the other thing. Because if we were like in a call now, like me and the player, he'd never speak that way. And he'd probably say it like you said, look, mate, you don't know, like behind the scenes, that guy wasn't supposed to play the lane that way. And then my jungler fucked up the level 3 gank or whatever, And if he explained it like that, I'd go, oh, there's a point that I hadn't thought of. But instead, because we're all aware everyone's watching, it's sort of like in school, you're aware that like, you're performing for the crowd and you're trying to win. So when they do that, let's be real, half the time, they're not even really saying your point's wrong. They're just saying, how dare you tell me that it's
exactly.
wrong. Yeah, I did fuck up. Yeah, I'm shit, but like, you know what? You can't tell me that. That's kind of the vibe. So really, it's just ego, which is, by the way, half of what makes these dramas hard to navigate, right?
Yeah, they just try to get you back with a got 'em and deflect the whole reason for your tweet just because they want to shit on you instead of having people shit on them.
Yes.
So then they're like, oh my God, you're such a Chad. You just answered that guy's tweet knowing that you were more popular than him and you would ratio him anyway and you want to shit on him instead of letting him shit on you so that you can one-up him for no reason despite being wrong. Congratulations, dude. Like, that's fucking great. Your ego is so big.
Exactly. Well, here's the funny thing. Believe it or not, I'll just drop this as a little banger if anyone knows the deep lore. I actually had this fucking annoying-ass American jungler from, like, California or something who once did that to me in, like, Season 4. He tried to just, like, dunk on me, like, what do you know about League of Legends? But luckily, his name's Dom. I actually did a few shows with him a little bit there. So it worked out, Yeah, because the joke is that's how our relationship started, like, on Twitter.
That's how me and I started then as well.
Exactly, yeah. But then eventually, the joke was, because we did a few shows, and we were like, actually, on shows, it just works. Like, whatever, we're giving each other time. So magically, that's where the rapport grew out of, amazingly. You would never guess, would you? It's mad. Yeah.
No, relationships stem from the weirdest places. Maybe it's just because you've been through the gulag together, the trenches.
There's a bit of that.
And like, there's like a bit of like respect between the two of you because you can talk smack to each other,
Well, there's another thing, mate. Once you actually know these people, they're not just another figure in the scene with like rival tribal fan bases and stuff. Once you've done a bunch of shows together, the joke is you become part of the same tribe, don't you? Like if we all do a show now, we all know each other. If you came on a show with Monty and Dagda was there and Quickshot, like everyone knows each other. And it feels more like, right, we can argue and dunk at you, but you're going to dunk more like mates. It's more like banter. You're not really trying to like cut them with the fucking dagger and get your fans to kick them to death in the scenario.
It's just straight banter. It's not fucking throwing shit around anymore.
Right, one thing I did want to ask, though, as we're coming towards the end here, is this is a controversial question, because I actually think everyone's missed the obvious question you should ask every caster and analyst every time they do an interview, AMA. This is what you ask them at any point in time for the last 4 years. You ask them this, not which is better, not which team will win the world. I want you to ask every one of them this question because it'll define everyone. You ask them this way. Which of the two leagues plays League of Legends correctly out of the LPL and the LCK? I actually think that's the dividing line among all the analysts and talent and all the people. And so, look, you know this. Obviously, Monty's still on that LCK side, but he's picked a fucking great time and sort of angle back into that. I noticed he managed to miss most of the Chinese dominance, then waltz back in when Korea comes. But some people are just fucking lucky like that in life. Obviously, LS is mad on the LCK side. You have the Doms of the world who were more always on the LPL side, and they saw that. Right, what is yours? Because on the one hand, I've noticed this. To me, it's like I get the vibe when I watch you do both of the sets of VODs that on the LCK one, when it's the right meta, you do sort of think they've got the blueprint and they are the best. But I also get the sense as a player, like you were talking earlier about your style of player. Your style of player is if things are going badly, you like the player, a Mickey who can sort of. You just flip the coin. Intentionally, you flip the coin. You know, like you might be in a bad scenario, so you just go for a crazy play, which is more the LPL. So, what's your? How do you break down your philosophy in that sense?
So, I think that like LPL was dominant for a while in the last few years. I mean, everyone can see it. And now LCK is coming back. I think the reason is because the game has less variables. Like the TP changes, for example, where now all of a sudden you can't get TP'd on early. Like there's just less variables in the game. The jungle changes when it comes to like the itemization is just a lot safer. There's no more tracking wards or green wards. Like there's so many, all the variables have like slowly disappeared. Like the durability update, everyone's tankier. These things I think just help the LCK, because if a slow game and not much is happening and they can just sit back and min-max everything, LCK will always be the best region. But if LPL can throw like a spanner in the works and have more variables in the game and just more action, more skirmish, more clutch factor, and more like raw gameplay rather than like a scripted foundation of a checklist, then LPL is better, right? But I think the game is just leaning more towards checklist gameplay. You know, you see the drafts these days, you see how the game's played, you see how easy it is to just stack dragons, contest the first herald, you know, just don't get caught on side lane. There's no split pushing anymore. There's no Camille in your base, or like even Fiora these days doesn't split push that much. So the game is just it's going to like such a one-dimensional state that I think the LCK is just a better region. So yeah, I think the LPL is not falling behind in any means. It's just in slow games, I think LPL teams and Chinese players, I don't know if it's just like the way their solo queue is or their culture or the way they see the game. They like things to be like fast-paced, on the ball, like screw the variables, fuck it, sense of mind. So yeah, I think like 2019 to like 2021, when the meta was like really like first pick Irelia, Aatrox, Akali, Jace, you know, the shy style of the world, or I don't know, the mages bot of the world where Viper's playing Vladimir and stuff like this, and Ghost can play Ziggs so that Nuguri can carry top with his Camille Fiora. And things like this, where it's more like team fight orientated, like play for this carry. It's a lot of back and forth between the LPL and the LCK. I would say the LCK is better. I think overall the LPL has better teams. Like they have like more teams that could contest the title. Like if you had 10 seeds at Worlds, then LPL would be better.
Oh, it's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
But like LCK has always been like a three-team region. You know, DAMWON, Genji, T1 have always been like just good. So yeah, I would say yeah, LCK.
Another thing that a fan isn't going to understand is they naively think it's a bit like teams, to be fair. Like you might like a player who's doing well in a team, like Opset last year. Obviously, he was doing great in Fnatic at the end. He looked awesome, but he isn't in Fnatic now. He's not in any team. You know, you never know what the business side behind can do, and it can wreck everything, or it can make all your dreams come true. You never know, and that's the problem. Is it's disconnected from a fan. They don't know what happened in the offseason. Like the joke in the offseason, I'll give you this. I'll extend the example. Is your actual assumption, if you're a fan who doesn't know behind the scenes, is Fnatic thought Reckless is better than Upset, and they were like, actually, we don't want Upset. Maybe he was a problem. We're bringing Upset. Whereas I can tell you from bad seeds, it's the opposite. Like actually, he had the choice to stay, chose not to. He maybe thought he was going to another team. Sadly, he thought he was going to be on a team that's very high up right now. I've told those stories. People know them, right? So like that, people don't know that's the same for casters. Like again, another thing people might not understand is there's a reason now when they do the LEC talent thing, they don't just say, here's all the people appearing. You don't need to know any more about it. You'll see which weeks they're on. Instead, they're like, right, here's the main team, like the starters, as it were. Here's like the people who got in for some weeks. We're going to mix that. They're the guests. And you can see, again, like I said with the Worlds thing before, there's the people who get to move between that. There's the people who get a bit perma stock there. There's the people who drop out of that and get replaced by someone else, right? When all that's going on behind the scenes, it doesn't matter if a fan, and by the way, the Esports Awards, I think literally did give you like Analyst of the Year. It doesn't matter if the awards say you're the best in the world. If the fans say it's got to be, of course he's going to do all the LECs. There's off seasons where if their vision of what you should do this season or where you're at's different, if they decide the budget means maybe they're going to spend more on this person and maybe not as much for you. I've heard that there was a world where if things had gone slightly differently, Caedrel wouldn't even necessarily have stayed doing LEC. Maybe he's, I don't know if you're content creator, I don't know if you're doing something else now, but instead it ended up working out. You got back, you're doing it again. But again, this every year, guys, it works like this. It's every single year it's going to be this approach. And everyone, I mean, the joke is, even Shox had it last year. You remember that, where it wasn't just because of the tragedy that she wasn't on the first weeks. They were figuring out her contract still.
I was in the same boat.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. She could have made an agreement much earlier on if she had to do LEC, but she actually, as far as I know, she was playing hardball, mate. She was making them wait. Like, you know what, every week that goes by, it's going to look bad that Shox it there. So now I don't know if Caedrel could do that yet. So I want to get the sense, where are you at in that regard? Like, if everything could work out business-wise, is being on LEC a long-term thing for you? Would you ever like to do another region? Do you see yourself as an on-camera talent from here on out?
I'll just rewind to like last year quickly before I answer that question, where Shox had contract issues. I remember I can't go into too much detail, but I had really bad contract issues with LEC in terms of like value, I guess, of what Caedrel's worth or what I was worth. And so I was doing these tweets where people thought I wasn't going to be on the LEC, where I did like, the Avengers Spider-Man meme where he's disappearing with me in a picture in Dracos to like, obviously I had to do this as like a cry for help in a way.
Like nudging the audience so that they're going to go, oh, it's Caedrel not going to do it. Like, you know what you were doing.
Exactly.
Yes.
And because I felt powerless after weeks of like trying to, hitting my head against the wall, I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And that luckily worked out in the end. And then now this last year negotiations was like much easier, much better. But that 2021 to 2022 offseason was a fucking mess. I'll have to tell everyone about it one day in 10 years. Some funny things happen.
Once the statute of limitations is gone, it'll be okay.
Exactly, yeah.
Because, by the way, one thing to tie into that quickly before we go on the other thing is the other thing that the fan might not understand is I actually think that you making it through the threshold of what I heard behind the scenes actually shows you they do think that you were legit and could do it for years, mate. Because what people don't know is a lot of those people who are the guest talent, they're happy to be there. This is the peak of their career right now. The joke is they might just do it for whatever's offered. If they just say, here's X, oh, thank you, I'll do LEC. Yeah. But once you decide, like this is my career, now you want your value, don't you? Well, like, am I actually worth this, right?
That's exactly it. I think that the problem is with esports past is, and people who don't really have a leg to stand on, it's like, we are going to hire you for this job and you don't have any other offers or opportunities because we own this game and you're in our region. So you're going to take this and you're going to take this rate and you're going to deal with it. But I think in the last year, LEC has realized what like brand value is to a product rather than just like, we need someone to show up and cast this game and go home and that's it. And this is the rate and you can take it or leave it. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 followers, it doesn't matter if you have 1 million followers, we don't really care. And now it's more like they're a lot more like humane in the sense where it's like, you have a big brand, you have this, we can offer you this, we can do this for you. And it's a lot more like influencer sphere / caster sphere now, which is, I think, a good overlap because I think personalities like Shox do bring a lot to the LEC, right? This is a name which will echo throughout the entire esports industry. So it's more than just signing someone else, just a host. You're signing Shox, there's a name behind a lot of this. So that's good. Like Riot has been really good over the last year in that sense. Back to your question. My other option for plan B last year was going into coaching with Vitality. They made some really good offers and I was like really close to doing it and I was pretty confident I wanted to make the jump, but I'd only been casting for like a year at that time and I was like, do I really want to just jump off this ship and go coach Vitality and just drop my casting career and just leave it as like a page in my entire book of my life of just I casted for a year and that's it? Because I felt like if I went into coaching, I would want to just focus on that for years and years and years and try to win titles. And then I don't think I'll ever go back to casting really. There's no point. And plus that off season, my stream went to like 10,000 average viewers on league stuff. The brand was growing a lot. The tracking the pros, I hit like 40k viewers on one stream. Like the streaming was going great. The YouTube was going good. Like, do I want to jump off this train already? That was the biggest debate. I reached out to a few friends, like Crepo, for example, who's really, really big help behind the scenes, and like people like Shox and just other casters and what their opinions were. And eventually I like went back to casting. This off season, I was talking to a couple of teams. I didn't have as much interest, interestingly, as last year, despite people knowing that I want to go into coaching. But I was speaking to the COO of DAMWON a little bit, and we were trying to work out maybe there's a chance if I could go to Korea, not as the head coach, but as like a strategic coach.
Yes.
They went with Gorilla in the end, who was like an LCK caster, but they thought the language barrier would be too much. And I kind of agreed. I was like really committed to like, holy fuck, I could go coach this team and this would be like insane. We never got to the negotiation part of like numbers and things like this. It was just, this is our idea. What do you think, Caedrel? And I was like, yeah, that's great. And they were like, who would you bring on to help you with like translating and things? And I was saying, well, I played with Expect and his English is getting really good. So I'll probably bring someone like Expect in as like a top lane coach and a translator for me and stuff like this. But again, is it really worth dropping everything, moving countries and all of this like financial stability that I brought up over the last 2 years to just take a risk? And if they said, here's the offer, and it was like below average from what I expected, I probably would have just taken it. Just 1 year to try and win Worlds. You know, I think my brand would survive a year of trying to win Worlds maybe, and then come back to the West and start streaming again and go back into casting. But if I take the jump, I would want it to be for something really big or like a project which is really promising. But for the next few years, I would say broadcast talent streaming, maybe owning a team one day is something I'd want to look into. I don't know what the financials behind it is. I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know what the work level's like, if it's balanceable with casting as well. But I think for the next yeah, easily 2 or 3 years, it'll probably be streaming and casting.
Thing is, when you just allude to, like, I could have coached Vitality, that's actually way more banger than the fans going to realise, because they're going to think, like, okay, anyone could get hired to LEC team. No, because that particular Vitality team, I remember, was Perks coming back to Europe and literally saying, like, I want this person. Like, I've heard basically when he goes to these teams post Cloud9, he just, C2, he just makes the team. Like, they sort of ask him, like he's had a bunch of scenarios where he wanted to make a super team with Alfari and other people he wanted to upset at times, you know. Does that imply Perks wanted you to be the coach?
I never spoke. I mean, I did speak to Perks a little bit here and there. I think he was already building the roster before I was like contacted, so I was kind of being slotted into an already built puzzle rather than like helping build it. But I think I have like a lot of respect for Perks. Like a lot of people have not doubted him, but like kind of written him off a little bit over the last few years because he's not bringing, you know, the flashy plays or whatever. But I still think his knowledge of the game is exceptional, and as a player, as an individual, he's still fucking top caliber, top tier mid laner in Europe. So looking at the roster on paper, I had doubts. You know, with some names like Karzi, Alfari, Labrov, self-made Perks. I looked at the roster and a couple of things made me feel off. And I think the biggest thing that was like detrimental to me wanting to do it was, this is a team that needs to succeed, and if it doesn't succeed, the first scapegoat will be me.
Absolutely, especially when you're big name players. Of course, they're going to fire the coach.
Exactly. Like the first person who's going to get cut is me, and it's going to be my fault. And if I don't fully trust this project, there's no point in trying to fix it if I'm not like fully committed. And if the roster was a little bit different maybe, and there was different names, and I felt like, fuck me, this roster can actually do something in internationals, then I probably would have just sent it. But I didn't have that like leap of faith level of confidence, plus all like the growing of the streaming and the pressure of like, do I really want to throw away casting and streaming now? So yeah, if the opportunity arises and it's like, we have this insane project, these are the names, and I'm like, fuck me, that actually might do a lot, then I would probably just go for it. Vitality was like the main team that I was talking to. G2 reached out and they wanted to speak to me a little bit, but after a week they said they're going to keep Dylan, and I was like, that's completely understandable. Like, they just basically talked to me and like, so what do you think we should do for the roster next year? What would your plans be? Give us like a breakdown of who you would sign. I remember that G2 roster before they got like Broken Blade, Flackett, Yankos and stuff. Not Flackett, Yankos. He was already still there. Flackett, Targamas.
Yes.
I was saying like I would try to import Keen from LCK, like get an import top laner, look into importing AD carry and maybe bringing back keeping Mickey and things like this. I don't know. I had like this weird roster plan, a lot different from the one that they went for. I think the one that I was trying to push for was really expensive.
You wanted Viper?
Viper, no, definitely wouldn't be.
Oh, it wasn't that level. Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't Viper level. It was almost like it's like kind of like Prince level.
Right, an up and comer, right? Okay.
Up and comer LCK players, plus Keen in the top lane, because I was like, I gave him this plan. I was like, look, top lane is shit in Europe. You need to import top no matter what if you want to win internationals. Like, because when I was imagining building these rosters, I wasn't like looking domestically. I was like, this is the one team you'll need to maybe make a top 4 or top 8 at Worlds. And like top lane is just so weak, you need to just import a really, really strong top laner or like an up and coming one. So yeah, I had this whole plan, but they didn't like it. Maybe it was too expensive. Maybe the idea was just not the direction they wanted. And they went for like the roster of last year, which, I mean, they won a split and they had a pretty good MSI. But it's hard. It's hard to just, you know, people are just like, fans are like, just import, you know, just get a good top laner from Korea. And it's a lot harder than just importing, you know, you need, like, how much they're getting paid. Top tier players in the LCK are earning double what some of the LEC players in the top teams are making. Like, you have to understand, Expect told me, LCK salaries, you're either being paid hundreds and hundreds of thousands of euros, or you're being paid pennies. And there's no real middle ground is very rare.
Yes.
So, really expensive players in Korea are like impossible for EU organizations.
Yes. Oh, by the way, the other thing I wanted to ask quickly on that last thing as well there is, look, you did a great job doing the rational one of like, you know, and obviously I would have had a chance to win something with DAMWON or do this. That's all great. But wasn't there also a little bit that teased you about the idea of like, I'll give you an example. I've told this story many moons ago now. I was actually asked for real, do I want to coach Fnatic League of Legends? And by the way, I don't even pretend like I could be a coach and knowledge. But my joke would have been, I'd have just hired some little nerd like you and you tell me everything. I'd go in and boss the players, right? Well, I'll tell you what, here's the thing. I never like truly considered, like I never really ever told anyone I'm going to do this, and like started thinking like, oh, but I'd get rid of the journalism. Right? I'll tell you the real reason I took a few weeks before I said no completely is because I was being asked by, remember I'm from Counter-Strike, I was being asked by Khan, who's like one of the most legendary Counter-Strike players ever. So I was like, dude, if he's asking me, like, fuck, maybe I should think about this. Look, it tickled my ego. It was like, fuck, that feels nice that he thinks I could do it and he's offering me the job and everything. And then the joke was, even though I was trying to sort of like let him down like a mate, like, well, I don't really know League that much. And he'd be going, no, you could pick anyone you want. And I'm going, fucking hell, keep soothing my ego, mate. Keep telling me, no, but I can't. I have to do CSGO events. We could probably give you a few events off, here and there. Maybe, we could it's making it harder and harder. And it's like, they want me. It's like that feeling is fucking mad. And just for the few weeks before you make the decision, you get to pretend in your brain like, and then if I do take it, you get to sort of fantasize about what it would be like. Was there any of that? Did he feel a little, did he give you a little rub? Like when DAMWON contacts you, you must just think like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
You know about me in Korea now. All right.
Yeah. Like, just people, the people wanting you to join their organization of like when they have prestige behind their name is like a sense of respect, which you sometimes never really like rationalize or think about, because as much as they may respect you as a person, the fact that they want to work with you as well is like, that feeling of want is incredible. Like I said, the DAMWON one was like a really interesting one, which I was trying to work on and was like really committed to, but obviously fell through. But I didn't get that many offers other than that one in this offseason. Last offseason was a lot more like LEC offers and LCS offers of like, hey, would you be a coach and things like this. But then this year I wondered, like, is there a job of like, not so much roster building, but off-season consultancy,
Sure.
Is there a niche for a job in esports of having someone experienced enough that they can help build rosters or have an idea of how personalities work that could help you with an off season or help you with whatever it may be, like negotiations if you want to go down the legal side of things, and just hire them for those month or two, Is that a thing? Is something I thought about? Is that something maybe I would want to do at the end of this year and then try to hammer home as like a new project, That's the idea I was thinking of. If all these teams are like interested in having coaches or they're reaching out to people, why aren't there people out there who just sign with 4 different teams for 2 months, look at their entire budget and say, these players get along well, these players don't get along well. They're able to reach out to those players, talk to different people, and then actually set up the roster correctly rather than just say, this is our budget. We can squeeze this player in and then we just go down the list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, rather than just like have different concepts of like, this is plan A, this is plan B, this is plan C, rather than just like have a list of players in every role and just try to get them from top down and then putting them all together and then looking at Excel and Fnatic and saying, well, shit, we didn't even make the fucking top 8. Look at us. We're shit now. We just spent all this fucking money. We had to cut Caedrel as well, and we don't have enough money now to even make top 10. Like, what the top 8? What the fuck's going on,
Well, I actually hadn't even thought of that. In a fucked up kind of mean way, but it's just human nature. It must actually, in a weird way, be almost like relieving to see like Excel without Caedrel and the super team.
Of course
just comes last place. Exactly.
Yeah,
it wasn't me. It wasn't me all along. There you go.
I'm not going to beat the dead horse on socials. Okay. I got one jab in there a couple of days ago, but I'm not going to beat the dead horse. But no Caedrel, no win. It does feel good.
Exactly. Okay. Right. At the end of this interview, do you have a final message? Anyone to thank or say hello to?
No, not particularly. I think not a lot of people realize that actually, like I said earlier, you were one of the first people who brought me on content alongside like Loco and Kelsey and Dom, and then like I think the content with LS then re-blew up my stuff. So as despite where I am now, like I think if anyone is looking to get into casting or content creation, being on other content creators like podcasts or like socials or like streams is really important. So I know a lot of pros might want to do the same. So if you're like a pro player, you're struggling, you're not sure if you want to be a pro, I would recommend like reaching out to like people like you like Thorin and Dom and just like trying to hang out with you guys. They give you a platform to speak on and they will help you build your brand and get your points across. And then, the world's your oyster if people like the LEC reach out, the LCS, whatever it may be. So I don't know how many people out there want to go into casting. I saw Jankos got a lot of praise for his casting as well. And I think the more that time passes, the more that maybe I'm like the third in line from Deficio and Crepo, but the more the time passes, the more opportunities there will be for like pro players to be talent, because I think it's much easier to learn showmanship than it is to learn the game at such a high level that your word is so respected and you're become like a fan favorite. So I wouldn't be surprised in like 5-10 years time, whatever esport it is, like ex-pro players from the game or just the casters, right? Or it goes in that direction for analyst desk especially.
I work hard to make sure I get mine, but no one can do it all on their own. And that's why everyone needs a support group. And so I have my Patreon community. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you want to ask a question in one of these monthly AMAs. Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming guests are? Or maybe you want to take part in one of those long discussions where you can help set the table of the topics and join in with other like-minded people. Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today via the Patreon link below, as the following people who I very much appreciate did: Matt Pugnich, Rakula, Ahmed Haju, Kyle, Bot Pounder 420, Toucan, Animosity, Tobias Bernasconi, Jensen Gore, Tosh, and always, you know it, a special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion.